Our first recipient is being honored for such an act of courage. A college athlete with little power, drawing an ethical line in the sand. Johnasia Cash, while a senior leader of the Southern Methodist University women's basketball team, demonstrated such courage and commitment to the ethical conduct of college sport by refusing to sign a waiver absolving her institution of any liability for harm that could be suffered by her related to the COVID-19 pandemic. When asked to return to campus to train earlier this summer, she was given two options: to return with the requirement to sign the liability waiver, or not to return, not to play her sport for a year by taking a medical hardship year. Voicing her belief that the university was not acting in the athlete's interest, but its own financial interest, she asked SMU to waive the liability requirement so she could return. After being told by the university's legal counsel that no changes would be made to the document offered to her, she decided not to sign it, even though it meant not being allowed to return to campus with her teammates. An onerous SMU response to her thoughtful and principled decision. Throughout her efforts to appeal to university administrators, she asked that they put themselves in the position of parents and challenged them to think as though they were putting the health and safety of their children, of athletes, above all else, to no avail. Ultimately, she decided to leave SMU and transfer to Penn State, citing a lack of trust in the athletic department with regard to protecting player safety. Do such actions matter? 1 month after her action, SMU dropped its demand for athletes to sign waivers. U.S. Senators Booker and Blumenthal followed suit, introducing legislation prohibiting such waivers. The NCAA followed suit, issuing a rule protecting the scholarships of athletes deciding not to report because of COVID. And other SMU athletes stood up and delivered a protest message to the athletic department. Last week, SMU athletes led a Black Lives Matter protest on campus. Drawing a line in the sand matters. Leadership matters. The Drake Group recognizes that college athletes have been given no voice in the decisions made about their own lives, which are being placed at risk during this pandemic. Unlike professional athletes who have unions to represent them, college athletes do not. They know their coaches have the power to control renewal of athletic scholarships and to punish them in both overt and subtle ways. Understandably, most college athletes do not have the courage to question what they are asked to do. Johnasia Cash did demonstrate that courage, embracing her role as a senior team leader, and for her actions, the Drake Group honors Johnasia Cash with its 2020 Presidential Award. I am honored to introduce you to Johnasia and to ask that she make acceptance remarks. And one note, right after she's finished, we will open for questions. If you would fill out your questions in the chat box, because she has a 1:30 class she has to get to, which we know is the most important thing. So Johnasia Cash.
Thank you so much, Ms. Donna. I really appreciate it. First things first, I just say, like, I am so honored to be honored for, speaking up for myself and standing up for what I believe is right versus wrong. Like you said, there's a lot of student athletes that trust their college, their universities and their coaches with, forms to sign. But this one just, baffled us. All of a sudden we were told to sign a form and, that it was due the next day at 11:59, and it just shocked us. So, we looked into it and we read it, and the first line of it was basically stating that, if we were to contract COVID-19, that our own healthcare would have to, take over, and that SMU wouldn't be held responsible. And, being at a university for going on 4 years now, you would think that they always say that they're putting the student athletes' health first. But if you're making me sign like your responsibility to take over my health, then how are you putting my health above all else if you're trying to sign your responsibilities away? When I was asked if I did not want to return to campus. I told them that I did want to return to campus. It's not the fact that I didn't want to come to school and work out. I love my teammates. I love SMU. I wanted to be there, but it was all in the matter that there's a huge worldwide pandemic going on. And how do you expect us to feel safe coming back if you don't have set protocols? Now, they were told that, we trust our protocols and, everyone will get tested. But the thing about it was there was too much freedom of movement. So when I brought the freedom of movement up, yeah, you can monitor us from 8:00 a.m. to 9 a.m. But what about 9 a.m. to 8:00 a.m. the next day? You can't track who people are hanging with, where people are going, how long they're out. People aren't going to quarantine. Even though we're young adults, there are people that are freshmen that are just got out of high school. They want to enjoy their college experience. And with the whole pandemic going around, there's no way that you can monitor 800 student athletes in their every move. So I just didn't feel comfortable, with their protocols, especially after them stating that, yeah, these are our protocols, but they're subject to change. Well, I was always told that you don't move into an action phase until you have a set plan and set things going on that will prevent your student athletes from contracting a virus. If you don't have set protocols and set plans and you're not putting in rules or regulations to, make sure that doesn't happen, then how are you ultimately protecting our safety? But back to the waiver, when I was mentioned that I did not want to return back to campus while the pandemic was going on because I was scared of my safety of contracting the virus, I was told to just select the no option and just not return back to campus and take a medical hardship year. But with my knowledge of the medical hardship year, you lose a year of eligibility. And that's basically stating I'm going to sign away my last year of eligibility of basketball. And it's not fair for me to have to do that. And when I called the ADs and asked what the medical hardship was, they basically stated to me that they only called it a medical hardship because they thought that the NCAA was going to call it a medical hardship as well. But I told them, you can't just think that the NCAA is going to call something. I'm writing and I'm signing in black and white ink. My mom went to school. She has a master's degree. I know a lot about the law, and I know that that's not right. The fact that you're trying to bind me in a contract with black and white ink is not right. And I know that. So I stood up for myself. I stood up for my teammates. A lot of my teammates decided to sign the waiver, but I was one of all that did not sign the waiver and continued to fight for what I believed in. So I really appreciate the award and everything like that, because this is it means so much to me to just know that our voices are heard and people are watching, and that we have a bigger voice and more power than we know as student athletes regarding our own safety, health, and in our scholarships in general. Knowing that they have control over our scholarships, it didn't scare me not one bit, because yes, you gave me an opportunity, but you're not the only school who's given me an opportunity. And I will take an opportunity somewhere else if need be, because this is just not right. Around the world, there's a lot of people that were told that they had to sign waivers, but no one was forced to sign. No one was forced to sign waivers as far as what I've heard. Especially at the school I'm at now. I go to Penn State University, which is closer to home. It's about 2.5 hours away from home, from Pittsburgh, which is really great. I love being close to home. I love being back in Pennsylvania. But they were told that they were given waivers too, but they weren't forced to sign them. So just knowing that, it's just I know SMU was in the wrong. We had meetings. We had an emergency meeting, and I told my teammates to ambush basically the coaches with our parents, because they wanted to bring the ADs in a meeting. And it's okay, you want to try to make us sign a form? Okay, I want my mom to know this. I want her mom to know this. I want her dad to know this. I want everybody to know. So all of our parents got on the meeting, and they were not expecting that as I wanted. Did not want them to know, and no one told them. So all of our parents got on the meeting, and the AD and assistant AD just seemed, baffled about what we were stating, because we had the forms right there and we were reading line for line what it said. So what does this mean? So what does this mean? So what does this mean? And they're just apologizing, and they just look really confused. And they were apologizing, and they just said that they were going to talk to the law firm and basically try to get an understanding of what was going on. So we're okay, cool. We're going to make changes. That's what they said. They were going to make changes so that it didn't state that, we had to cover our own medical care if we get COVID-19. They said they were going to add including COVID-19 onto the form, just so we knew, okay, well, now we know that, our healthcare is covered. But they wouldn't even put a comma in 3 words, including COVID-19. They couldn't even put that. Like, they came the next day with an emergency meeting. This is the day after we had a meeting with our parents, and they said they were going to make changes to the form. We came the next day to an emergency meeting. Now, once again, with the ADs and coaches, and they basically stated that they weren't making any changes. They talked to the law firm, and everything on there needed to be on there. And I just stood my ground. I said, I'm not signing it. I'm not signing it. This is not right. You're trying to bind me in black and white ink. They showed us our returner physical forms and said, well, in this form, it says that you guys are covered with our medical. If you get any illnesses, if you get sick or whatever during your time here at SMU. And I'm like, I understand, but this was signed then, and this is signed now. And like I said before, I know the law. And once I sign this one doesn't matter anymore because this date is new. And they just try to act like we were just dumb athletes. And I'm not a dumb athlete. I'm very intelligent. I graduated high school with a 4.0. I managed a 3.5 at SMU. I'm really intelligent. And my mom, she taught me a lot about this stuff. And it's just like, I know that this is not right. And I'm going to say something about it. And I'm going to continue to stand my ground because I just don't believe it's right. So I'm just really excited to accept this award on the behalf of just believing, just speaking on what I believe in. And it's like, it's really powerful for me. And I really appreciate it, Miss Donna. Like, everything that you've said, everything about this is just amazing.